Good evening, my friends. I'm so happy. I'm so happy to see all of you. To be honest, I'm so happy. In fact, I'm surprised to see so many of you here. I thank you for making the effort to come here. I am going to ask your permission to make perhaps the most boring speech in my life, but perhaps the most important speech in my life. Can I do that? Friends, it's been 14 years for me in politics. Some people think elections are a game. You win, you lose. Others think, especially at rallies, it's entertainment. You come here to be excited, you cheer, some other people boo, they get their emotions worked up. Some people think it is a debate. Now, I know about debates. I used to be a debater when my hair was less gray. And I enjoyed debating. But my friends, politics, elections, Singapore, and our families are far too important. It is not a game. It is not entertainment. It is not a debate. So let me share with you from my heart how I feel, what I worry about, and what I hope for you and for your families and for mine. I've had the privilege of traveling very widely on government duties. I've had dinner in the Great Hall of the People in Beijing on their National Day. I've sat through formal pageantry at the Presidential Palace in New Delhi. And you know, each time that happened, the thought struck me, if my great-grandparents had not left China and India more than a century ago, do you think their great-grandson would be having dinner in the Great Hall of the People or in the Presidential Palace in New Delhi, India? And the answer is no. It would never have happened. First, I wouldn't exist because Indians and Chinese would not normally have met. Right? And I would probably have been a farmer, a peasant, a tailor, a trader, a printer. Jobs that my great-grandparents did. Right? So the next thought that struck me, okay, so I'm here because I've been blessed to be born in Singapore. Like all of you, we are all blessed to be in Singapore. But am I really so special? I'm not. There are Indians and Chinese far smarter than me, who will work far harder than me. I am not special. Yet, because of the coincidence that my great-grandparents chose to come to Singapore, and because of the coincidence that the Republic of Singapore became a sovereign nation 50 years ago. That's what makes me and makes each of you special. Do you get it? We are special because we are Singaporeans. Now, if you understand that we are special because we are Singaporeans, yes, that's coming too. The PAP certainly had something to do with that, to make us special, right? So then we ask ourselves, 50 years ago, what happened? We didn't fight for independence. We didn't ask to be kicked out of Malaysia, but we got kicked out. Why? Because the PAP and the people of Singapore decided that we would have a multiracial society where we are all equal. All equal. For that, we got kicked out, and suddenly, on the 9th of August 1965, we had to survive. So the point I'm making is that we are special, but we have to be special because otherwise we wouldn't have come about and we will not survive. So the point is to ask, what were the special challenges that confronted Mr. Lee Kuan Yew and the pioneer generation and the pioneer leaders? I think there were three at that point in time. First, how do we create a fair and just society? Because you see, without a fair and just society, people of different races, languages, and religions cannot live side by side. Look around the audience here today. This would be unusual, even in our neighboring countries, because their politics are still race-based. I would be standing here either as an Indian candidate, or a Chinese candidate, or a Malay candidate. Second, having achieved independence because of a belief in an ideal, that's not enough, because the independent sovereign nation of Singapore didn't have enough water, certainly didn't have enough food, didn't have enough finance. It didn't have all the natural resources and all the essentials of life. So economic survival was crucial because you cannot feed your people just on the basis of ideals and talk. You have to feed your people with real food and real water, which you extract, treat, process. And more importantly, unless Singapore was relevant to the rest of the world, we cannot feed ourselves. So that was the second challenge. The third challenge was security. Because we live in a tough neighborhood, we lived in a neighborhood that wasn't very friendly. And my friends, I tell you this, perhaps at the risk of causing diplomatic incidents. I have to travel a lot. I have to negotiate, whether it is about haze or water or climate change. And again, I'm very, very mindful, that people only listen to me because I'm from Singapore. Yes. Yes. Absolutely right. Because we are from Singapore. Yes. And if we were not strong, if we were not successful, if we were not united, if we were not a shining red dot, an example to the other 200 countries in the world, nobody would listen to us. Do you understand how and why we have to be special? So those three things, right? A fair and just society, economic survival, good jobs, and security. And there was one unforgettable message that Mr. Lee Kuan Yew shared with us. He said, "No one owes us a living. No one owes us a living." Now, my friends, 50 years later, are we wealthier? Are we successful? But let me ask you, is this statement that Mr. Lee Kuan Yew made, "No one owes us a living," is this statement still true? Obviously, isn't it? Right? In fact, not only is this statement still true, but the first three foundational challenges of a fair and just society, economic relevance and survival, and security, are still absolute parameters for our survival. So the point I'm trying to make is that in all the excitement of politics and elections, never forget our fundamental constraints. Because when people come up with ideas and people debate or people entertain, you must never make the mistake of forgetting that actually life and death, survival, prosperity, and unity is at stake. That's how serious elections are. For my team, we view the electoral and the political process at two levels. First, do we have a relationship? And second, do we enjoy your trust? Let me go into this in some detail. We are all human beings. We all have families, friends, colleagues, associates. Let me ask you this. How do you develop a relationship? A relationship takes time. You need to meet. You need to do things together. You need to enjoy times together. In fact, relationships have ups and downs. Sometimes you even need to fight together. The point I'm making is that a relationship is not a one-night stand, It's not just finding the most interesting, the most entertaining partner, but it's about someone whom you're going to spend another 50 years or more. Many people, many opposition politicians look down on PAP politicians for spending so much time on the ground, for knocking on your doors humbly, for looking at drains, chasing rat burrows, getting rid of mosquitoes. They look down on us. But they even tell us all your local plans, not important. In fact, the opposition doesn't even offer any local plans. There are no plans. They say there's no need for local plans. All that will be done automatically. Right? They don't even plant trees. No, but you see, the point I'm actually trying to make is that we do all these things because of a relationship. Because I want you to know that I'm there for you, that I will look after you, that I will protect your children, that I will invest and build your neighborhoods. Thank you. So, That's why, to us, an election is not something that happens over 9 days. It is a continuous activity. It is a relationship. The second dimension to that is trust. Now, trust is a very difficult thing to achieve, you know. Trust is something that can be gained over time through behavior, through actions, very easily lost. And if it's broken, to put it together again, very, very difficult. One key advantage the PAP has had is that trust. That people knew whether we did the popular thing or the unpopular thing, that we did it for you, with you, and for Singapore. It's not just a slogan, you know. It's really about trust. So if you understand that it is about a relationship, a living, viable relationship, and about trust, then you realize someone who comes and asks for your vote doesn't bother really to engage or to do anything on the ground. Is that a relationship? Is that trust? But you see, my friends, if you've had a relationship for 50 years, 50 years is a very long time. It's like being married for 50 years. Most of us have not yet been married that long. There will always be opportunities for third parties to come in. No, let's be honest, but there will always be opportunities. Now, how do third parties come in? They come in when they sense that the relationship is not close, when the relationship is not strong, or when there are issues that are not yet resolved. And the opposition in Singapore will campaign on the basis of the politics of anger, envy, jealousy, class division. They will play up issues that can work up your emotions. So if you look at what's happening today, we see a party coming to our home telling us that you should be angry, you should be feeling shortchanged, you should be feeling jealous, and you should have a political system based on paralysis and gridlock. They call it checks and balances. There is a proper way of having checks and balances. But actually what they're trying to do is to barge in to our home. And therefore, they sometimes do things that look silly to us. One example, just this afternoon at Fullerton, one candidate said he hoped that our DPM Timah would have a falling out with our Prime Minister, join the opposition, form a grand coalition of opposition parties. I call it a motley crew.
This person is daydreaming.
No, it's not a matter of daydreaming. This reveals the mentality, the mindset, and the attitude that they have to politics. I have just one message to send to the SDP. In the PAP, we do not have a tradition of backstabbing our mentors. And do you know, we do not have a tradition of backstabbing our mentors. the question you should ask is why? Why do we not have this tradition? The reason is because in the PAP, if you're a member of the PAP, and if you offer yourself as a leader within the PAP, it's not about you. It is about Singapore. First, party. Second, the individual doesn't count. The individual is relevant only as so far as we can serve the country and serve the party. So you will not get this kind of behavior and this kind of thinking in the PAP. And that should also give confidence to our people. That is also why Singapore remains exceptional and special. Now, having said that, the other way which they are trying to barge into our homes, we can only close the door on September the 11th. No, but it's not, my friends, it's not so simple, because there's also a matter of the heart. And I want to talk about compassion. All right. And for that, I want to share again a story which I've shared several times with several of you, but I see this is a new crowd with many new faces, so allow me to repeat my story. I told you just now, my great-grandparents came from India and China, more than a century ago. About 87 years ago, my grandfather died when he was on a business trip to China. He died, leaving my grandmother with 2 young children and my own mother not born yet. When my mother was born, the family was in turmoil. The only breadwinner has died. They received support from my grandfather's brothers, but life was tough for my mother. She described being, food, luxuries, could not be taken for granted. She became skinny. She told me she lost all her front teeth. She had tuberculosis, and this is 87 years ago. Having tuberculosis then is not a joke. And she met my father. She said, I'm probably infertile, and I told you all she was wrong because she had 5 children. But this experience deeply impacted her life and affected her children and my values. So let me share some of, and there was another incident. When the Japanese bombs were dropping and people were rushing to shelters, she knocked her head, and my auntie told me that after that concussion, she never did so well in school as she used to. So let me share with you what these experiences that my mother went through, and therefore what values I have. Number one, I believe that life can be tough, life can be unfair, life can be unpredictable, bad things can happen to good people, and there will always be people who need help. Always be people who need help. Second lesson, we need our families, we need community support, and you do need governments to come in to provide another level of support. Third lesson, work hard. When a family does not have wealth, 80 years ago, the only way for my mother's family to make good was to study hard, work. Even if you didn't enjoy your work, they didn't talk about work-life balance. You worked as hard as you could, as long as you could, in order to make an honest day's living. Fourth lesson from my mom, live within your means. Never spend more than what you earn. Always save something behind. Fifth lesson, And I shared that the other day also. My mom died too early, but she wanted to leave something for her grandchildren. I saw her arranging to leave small gifts to her grandchildren. And it was painful and touching that every dollar that she gave them was a dollar that she did not spend, a dollar that she did not use, a dollar that she had saved for them. You see, my friends, this concept of leaving a legacy, leaving something extra to your children. The sixth lesson I learned was that we must never allow bombs to fall on Singapore again. Never allow that to happen. So my friends, if you add up these lessons I've learned, and in fact, if you ask yourself, I think for all of us here, these are not my personal values. I think all of you share these same values, right? You all share the same values. So now, the question is, in this day and age, we are a successful country. We're a sovereign nation. We have a strong armed forces. I'm going to read out a whole list of things which I think we should be proud of. We have one of the lowest unemployment rates in the world. We have healthy reserves. We are one of only 12 countries which is AAA rated. We actually have one of the lowest tax regimes and yet still progressive in the world. We have an honest, credible government. We have strong, friendly, respectful bilateral relations, not only with our neighbors, but even with global powers. We have the security provided by the SAF and the Home Team. We have the world's highest rate of home ownership. We have great schools. People will say stressful, but the point is, our students do disproportionately well internationally, anywhere in the world. We have great facilities. If you go to the ITE, any of the ITEs in Singapore, there's more facilities in our ITE than in many universities in many first world countries. We have an education system that has been changing over the years to provide more flexibility, to provide more options to diverse skill sets. We have one of the world's best healthcare outcomes. So I'm not talking about costs here. I'm talking about life expectancy, health, child mortality, maternal mortality, all the standard parameters of whether a health system works or not. Ours is amongst the best. We have a clean and green Singapore. We have a vibrant arts and music and culture scene. Even our fundamental vulnerabilities from the beginning, water, we are now, paradoxically, selling more water to Malaysia than we ever did before. A few days ago, PUB announced we're building our fourth desalination plant. Our water companies compete and get business across the world. I'm sharing all this not to boast, but I'm sharing all this so that you understand that we are a successful nation with much to celebrate and much to congratulate each other for. We should be happy. We should be happy, we should be proud. But this doesn't mean we are perfect. There are fundamental challenges confronting us. And I will cite you 3. First, climate change. Whether you like it or not, the fact is more and more carbon dioxide is going into the air, and the global temperatures are rising. What that means for a little island, 25% of our land is reclaimed land. When the sea levels rise, when weather patterns change, and you get droughts, and you get more intense storms, all those things are going to happen at the same time. And they're going to get worse over the next century. Certainly by SG 100, we will be dealing with the consequences of climate change. Next, globalization. When we started off in 1965, China and India were not part of the global economy. India was doing import substitution, China was a communist economy. There was far less competition. Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, in his wisdom, when we got kicked out of Malaysia, said we have to be a global city. We have to open our boundaries, welcome foreign companies and foreigners, so that we can compete and be relevant to the world. But you see, my friend, what changed in 1978 when China connected to the global economy? 1991, when India connected to the global economy, is that suddenly more than 2 billion people suddenly were competing on the same economic platform. So, my friends, it is true that we are facing more competition now, because never before in economic history have suddenly 2 billion people come on stream online at the same time. So even now, as we have political arguments about foreigners, about competition, yes, we can refine and we should refine our policies, but I need you all to understand that there is a global trend which we cannot cut ourselves off from. Any politician who tells you he can shield you, insulate you, protect you from all global competition is selling you koyo. Because, in fact, we have to make sure that Singaporeans always are special, and then we earn our place in India, China, Washington, New York, London. You see the point? We cannot insulate and cut ourselves off. We have to uplift ourselves. We have to make ourselves special, and we make ourselves special because of our system, because of our unity, because of our team, because of our education, because of our honesty, integrity, and the way we do things. There is a third global trend. There is a third global challenge confronting us, and that is technology. You know, in this election, people say, oh, this is going to be an internet election. Everybody's got smartphone, and everyone is sharing WhatsApp and Facebook statuses. But social media is only part of the story, you know. The internet, communications, publications, the Internet of Things, big data analytics, 3D printing, all this is going to completely transform the economy of the world. The way things are made, designed, produced, shared, transported, all this is going to change. And anyone who assumes that, no, we want the world to be what it was last year or 10 years ago, my friend, that is not an option. Prime Minister asked me to lead the Smart Nation effort. It's not because I enjoy playing with computers. Yes, I do enjoy playing computers, but it's not really about that. In fact, it's not even about computers and technology. It's about giving opportunities to Singaporeans, to prepare Singaporeans for a new world where everything is going to be transformed. And the thing I am most afraid of is that every time a technological revolution has occurred in human history, there's a period of dislocation, great unemployment, and inequality. Inequality is a political issue, but inequality is not just caused by politicians. In fact, it is because of technological changes that are going to wipe out jobs, wipe out production lines. Can you imagine? We already have driverless trains. I was supposed to take a driverless car, except the election came here, so I couldn't take my ride last year. But no, not a Google car, developed in Singapore. So the point I'm making is that we are confronting major challenges in the next 50 years. And if we spend our time entertaining each other, quibbling about details, and miss the big picture, our children will be in trouble. So specifically for Singapore, what are we concerned with? One final topic I want to deal with is compassion. We need, you see, Singapore is one of the fastest aging societies in the world. Fastest. Singapore, with our current fertility rate, is also potentially one of the fastest shrinking populations in the world. Many opposition politicians like to talk about 6.9, and they use it to hit us on the head with. My friends, I tell you, my greater fear is that our population will never go anywhere close, or never go much beyond 6, because if your fertility rate is low, and if your economy is not booming, and people don't want to come, you won't have the problem of worrying about 6.9, The greater threat, in fact, is stagnation, aging, and shrinkage. Now, a population that is aging, that is shrinking, will have old people who need help. It will have sometimes poor people who need help because technology has moved on, jobs have disappeared. It will have sometimes disabled people who need help. It will have displaced professionals and technicians who need help. In fact, the number of people who are going to need help may actually grow in the near future. Now, if you are designing a system, not for one election, but for the long term, to provide help and express compassion sustainably, there are two models. The first model has been tried for over 60 years. It's called the Western welfare state. This model consists of universal benefits funded by tax. That model works. No, it can work. It works if your population is growing, your population is young, many incomes are going up, many people are able to pay tax, then you can fund universal benefits. But such a system always means high taxation. And as DPM Timah explained 2 days ago, if you have universal benefits, a key feature of that system is high taxes for the middle class. And even more dangerously, the problem with such a system is that eventually, when your population ages or shrinks, you go bankrupt. Europe and some European countries are already going bankrupt. Even the American Social Security system is going to face a fiscal crisis. within the next 1 or 2 decades. That means there's not enough tax dollars going in to fund all the benefits that have been promised. Even Japan, now the Japanese are just as hardworking as us, but even the Japanese social security system is in trouble because Japan has aged and its population is falling. So that model, the Western welfare state, I put to you and I put to the opposition candidates, is a failed model and is not a model that we should adopt because it's fashionable, because I make trips to Europe, receive fees to make speeches there, and therefore copy their ideas and bring it back to Singapore and offer it to Singaporeans. It is a route to disaster. There is another model. I call it the Singapore model. In the Singapore model, we look after people who need help. But we do it on the basis of personal and family responsibility. We save, remember, live within your means. We save, we take insurance, and then we do targeted subsidies. Do you see the difference there? The Western model is universal benefits funded by tax. Our model, personal, family responsibility, savings, insurance, and targeted subsidies. The value of our Singapore model, which is unique, is that we can make sure people who need help receive help. We don't run out of money, and the reserves are not raided. I'll give you an example of that. For the Pioneer Generation Package, $8 billion put aside. We didn't pass the bill to our children. In any other country in the world, such a package would have worked by passing the bill to the children. In our case, we took it straight away, present budget, settled, accounted for. So, my friends, our Singapore model works. Of course, we can make it better. So, for CPF, we are making it better. We have CPF Life. And of course, the opposition is trying to say, no, I want to take everything out at 55. Now, I think all that's arguable, but the fundamental principle is this. As we all live longer lives, we all need a pension. And the best way to have a pension is to have a lump sum to buy an annuity, and that $160,000 will give you $1,200 plus for life. If you want a smaller sum of money, you can leave a smaller sum of money in there. If you want more, you can also leave more. So the changes which we are making is to provide more flexibility. You can take a lump sum out at 65. You can choose how much you want, a different range of the sum that you want to put in there. They call it basic, standard, and extended. And you choose how much retirement pension you want to receive. For MediShield, the biggest innovation this year is MediShield Life. Why is it a major innovation? Because it is universal. Everyone is going to be covered, including pre-existing disease, including congenital. Everyone is going to be covered. The opposition tries to scare you by saying, there is high deductibles. But they don't bother to really check how the system is supposed to work. And the system will start from 1st November. So what we are saying, now, I know a bit about healthcare. I used to be a surgeon. I used to run the Singapore General Hospital, and I'm now a member of the cabinet. Healthcare costs keep going up. Why? Because as doctors, we have new drugs to give you. We have new surgical procedures we can do for you. We got new robots that can do new surgery. Healthcare costs goes up. The question is, how do you make sure it is affordable? And in the Singapore model, not the Western welfare model, in the Singapore model, we must make sure we save enough, insure enough, and have targeted subsidies so that everyone who needs healthcare gets it. When you're dealing with healthcare, the serious issue is that there are three dimensions which you're trying to balance: quality, cost, and access. And no country in the world has a perfect system. I worked in the United Kingdom, in London. NHS, free. Free, so that means low price. But access is a problem. You wait long time before you get your procedure. In America, high costs, but not universal access because many people are left out. In Singapore, our current system, and plus the new modification, guarantees every Singaporean 100% access to care, reasonable and honest costs, and high quality. We have that. We have anywhere, I take you on anywhere in the world, we have it. And I'll tell you this, as the CEO of SGH, I never had to worry about bad debts for someone in C class because there was always Medifund available. So don't get scared by politicians telling you healthcare will bankrupt you in Singapore. You make sure you're on MediShield Life, make sure you pay your premiums, make sure you take full advantage of the subsidies that the government will provide you, and I can guarantee you that everyone will be looked after. But now, there will be further improvements because, as I said, the Singapore system is not perfect. It can be improved. But don't make the mistake of completely dismantling a model that works. It has worked, and with appropriate modification, it will continue to work, and it will serve us well. So my friends, I want to conclude on this note. We are a successful country. We have good reason to stand tall, to be proud, and to celebrate. We are going to make our country even greater, even more special. We are going to look after every single person. We are going to look after every single person who needs help, and we will make sure we do not pass bills to the next generation. We will make sure the next generation has a legacy which will allow them, my children, your children, to do even better, to reach that glorious future. So my friends, Majulah Singapura, I wish you all the very best of health, success, and happiness. Thank you very much.